"I love you," I said, looking into his eyes. He gazed at me for a moment before I continued. "I can't go on like this. I want you to know that. I'll still send money for your mother's treatment, everything you need. I just had to say that this false arrangement is too much for me." Before I could say anything more, he leaned in and kissed me. It was as if we both acknowledged the undeniable connection we felt when we first saw each other in the store. We started dating shortly after that, although I wish I had been wiser and seen through his true nature. Soon after we made our relationship official, my dad expressed an interest in meeting him. We were both a bit nervous, fearing that my father might secretly disapprove of him, but his reaction surprised us both. My father offered Maya a job at his company, not a high-ranking one, but it provided him with exposure to a significant clientele and a better income than he had ever had. We never discussed the kidnapping or any other dark secrets with my father, and I intended to keep it that way. Maya worked diligently in his new position, and life was good. We eventually moved in together, and he got to experience a taste of the luxurious life I had been living. He continued to take care of his mother, and I visited her occasionally. But one day, something changed. Maya came home acting strangely, and I asked him what had happened. He explained that his mother's condition had taken a turn for the worse. He didn't think it was a good idea for me to visit her anymore. He mentioned that she was a very proud woman who wouldn't want anyone to see her in her deteriorating state. I didn't question this decision and allowed him to keep this part of his life private. Despite his mother's worsening condition, he seemed happier. He loved his life and was incredibly ambitious. He once confided in me that his ultimate dream was to establish his own business and amass wealth. Although he was making decent money, he explained that every penny was being channeled into his mother's medical treatment. So I continued to shoulder the financial responsibilities for our apartment, food, and entertainment. I admired being with someone as selfless as him, or so I believed. However, a turning point arrived when he received a substantial promotion, accompanied by a significant increase in income. I thought that now he could contribute more to our life together, but at that very moment, his mother required yet another major surgery. I asked if I could visit her, but he insisted that she still didn't feel comfortable having me see her in her weakened state. He extracted a promise from me never to visit her, and as a result, he spent even less time with me. Most of his days were consumed either by tending to his mother or by work. Even when he did come home, it was often very late. Initially, I attributed this to his busy schedule, but over time, it became apparent that he was deliberately avoiding spending time with me. One day, our growing distance erupted into a heated argument. I confronted him directly, questioning whether he was being unfaithful. His immediate response was a vehement denial. He reminded me that he was devoted to his job and his mother, and he accused me of being selfish and unable to comprehend the challenges he faced. I felt guilty and apologized, promising to make amends with a romantic evening. Of course, the entire plan and the expenses would be on me. It was our anniversary, and I wanted to create a memorable experience. I arrived at the fancy restaurant we'd booked and waited patiently for an hour. The situation was incredibly embarrassing. I called him repeatedly, but he never picked up. My patience wore thin, and I decided to break my promise by heading to his mother's hut. How could he stand me up like that? When I arrived, I noticed his car in the driveway, but due to the bright lights, I couldn't discern what was happening inside. However, I had a strong suspicion that he wasn't alone. The next day, I resolved to visit the cabin once more and hide inside before his arrival. I knew exactly where he kept the spare key. With quiet determination, I let myself into the cabin, anticipating the same modest and somewhat shabby interior that I had remembered. However, my jaw dropped in disbelief as I surveyed the transformed cabin. It had undergone a remarkable makeover, now exuding opulence and extravagance. Plasma screens adorned the walls, crystal statues graced the shelves. It was a far cry from the humble abode I had expected. My first thought was, where was Maya? I scoured the premises, but it appeared deserted. Not a soul in sight. It wasn't plausible that his ailing mother had casually vacated the place. Unless he possessed some hidden necromantic powers, he had some serious explaining to do. The nagging suspicion of a secret family gnawed at me, and I began to wonder if he had been using me for my wealth and my father's influence. I opted to wait for his return. With seething anger, I shut off the lights and concealed myself in the dark, biding my time while amusing myself with my story cartoons and scrolling through memes. I didn't have to wait long. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway signaled his arrival, and I hid behind a couch, ready to catch him, and whoever else he might have brought, off guard. Well, in a way, I was partially correct. He did return, accompanied by a young girl who couldn't have been more than 14 years old. She was blindfolded and trembling with fear. He instructed her to wait patiently, assuring her that once her father transferred the money, he would safely release her. It was evident that his dealings extended far beyond conventional business, and I seethed with anger. Without hesitation, I sent a text to my friend, urging her to call the police and providing her with my precise location. Simultaneously, I activated my phone's recording function. Then, with a sudden and loud emergence from my hiding spot, I startled them both. I confronted him head-on, demanding immediate answers. Under the pressure, he rapidly divulged the unsettling truth. His mother's condition had taken a dire turn. However, his claims of support were nothing but a ruse. His mother's condition was far graver than he had let on. In truth, he had fabricated her well-being to keep living off my wealth while amassing his fortune. Shockingly, he confessed that he had never loved me. I was merely a means to an end, a golden ticket to affluence. His grand plan involved accumulating enough wealth to abandon me without a second thought, secure in his financial independence. He had exploited his influential connections to maintain his sinister criminal activities, which involved extorting ransoms from the affluent parents he knew. I sternly informed him that his days of opulence were over, but he retorted with a chilling threat. He would silence me forever. "No one will ever find out about this little conversation, Nathan," he hissed menacingly. Terrified, I bolted from the room, seeking refuge in his mother's quarters. Desperation compelled me to lock the door, using a key I had found. On the other side, he relentlessly pounded on the door, attempting to force his way in. Yet, within a mere 30 seconds, flashing lights illuminated the room. The police had arrived just in time. Panicked, he attempted to flee, but the officers promptly subdued him with force. In the throes of his arrest, he broke into hysterical sobs. When I coldly informed him that there would be no Guxy in prison, he could only weep, realizing the gravity of his predicament. Today, I sleep soundly and without the torment of nightmares, secure in the knowledge that I had captured my own kidnapper.